Welcome back to the next part of rebuilding the PW80. On this episode, I'm going to try to do the top end rebuild. The carb's been soaking since the last episode, which is 2 weeks ago. So hopefully that float pin will come out and I can finish rebuilding it. Also, the stator plate is gone, as you may notice. I was able to drill it out, but the bolts are still here. So I have to try to figure that out. So if I can get them out, I'll put the stator on. And I didn't bother to do any research as to how to rebuild the top end. I'm just going to try to figure it out as I go. Just going to play it by ear and see what happens. So yeah, let's get started. Also, I was able to get a hold of a miscellaneous assortment of factory hardware. So I was able to get some of the stuff, so I do have a front axle for it. I haven't looked to see yet, but I don't know if I have one of the engine mounts, because I do have the top one, but I don't know if the bag has the bottom one in it. That is probably it. Yep, that looks like it. Let's see if it protrudes. Yes, it does. Okay. Of that kit, I got the bottom engine mount bolt and the swing arm, which are the two most important ones I needed. Also got the front axle, which I don't really need at this point, but I have it. So when I get the wheels, I will have something to work with. As far as the body and wheels go, I'm trying to find the wheels and tires used because the new ones are expensive and I want to keep this as budget as possible. I haven't gotten a chance to get up to the Junkyard for like dirt bikes and ATVs. So as of yet, I don't have front or back wheels or chains or chain guards or brake assemblies or any of that. I'm going to order the body new. There are non-OEM body panels, which I'm just going to do that because it's cheap. Nope. Looks pretty good. The heads look about the same. The heat vent design is obviously different. It's not that big of a deal. I don't like this cage design, which, I mean, luckily I could probably just reuse this one, to be honest. The top end looks okay. The cylinder itself is what's crashed. There we go. Okay. I have no idea what grade metal the new ones are. You know, something really garbage. But I won't know until I put them in. And as far as I know, you know, these could be grade 8, and they need to be. For a kit that was 40 bucks or whatever, 50 bucks, I honestly wouldn't expect it to be OEM quality. I should probably replace the connecting rod, but I don't want to pull the engine apart and pull the crank out in order to do that. So I'm just gonna bypass doing that. Oh, that's a joke. Okay, it's literally the easiest thing possible. Yeah, these retaining clips are like really flimsy. They're just like really cheap metal. I am dead. Oh my gosh. Okay, all of that crud I just wiped out of the cylinder. Like, that's in sitting, so I guess either all the cleaners and solvents I put in there have like softened everything that's in there, or more dirt got in there. I think it's the first one, but this is like really cruddy. Yeah, like, it should definitely not be in a crankcase. And just see if that cylinder looks the same. Okay, well, it looks really, really close. The holes kind of look like they sit out further on the new one. These flanges look the same, but let's see if they're threaded properly. Yes, they are. That's promising for the cheap rebuild kit. So yeah, you can see the cylinder looks really, really good. There's a little bit of hash marks, I assume from like honing. Well, it's actually the cross hatches, so that's good. It's probably going to work pretty, or at least decently well. The inside looks more like a record than anything else. It is really damaged. Aside from the fact that there's like really bad ridges everywhere, there's a decent bit of carbon buildup along the perimeter edge, so this is trash. I mean, all in all, the kit looks pretty good. Oh, I never noticed the arrows. There's an arrow on the piston itself facing downward to like towards the ground, so I assume I'll have to match that. The wrist pin, or wrist bearing and pin, also both look okay, But either way, I'm going to keep all the old stuff just in case. Just see if I can get this out. Oh, so I saw there was a comment for removing the stator plate. The screws that hold it in are just like flat-headed, tapered screws, and I tried to get them out. I used an impact, I used, a couple different bits, and even so, they weren't coming out. So what I did, I used a stepped drill bit, and I just drilled basically until the head of the screw was gone, and then I just pried the stator plate away. And luckily, this bottom one had enough material left and was also loose, so I am literally turning it out by hand. That makes my life really, really easy. But the top one, I'm not gonna get that lucky. Let me see if I can show you this. Okay, you can see there's like a beveled hole where the screw head was, and now it's just basically just a little section of threads. There you go. So yeah, this one came out really, really easy. The top one, not so much. I'm gonna try to get at it with pliers. If that doesn't work, I'm gonna have to probably drill through it and then re-tap the hole. Luckily, I was gonna try welding it. Oh, cool. I just used a magnet and got it loose. So what I was gonna attempt to do was put a nut on each end, like just an open generic nut, and weld through it. These were actually really loose. That was really, really painless. This doesn't come with new screws. That really sucks. Magnets look okay. I'm gonna wipe them off. Again, this is all cheap stuff. So you can see like this magnet's nice and bare metal, but this one's oxidized or some sort of like sealant to like stop it from rusting. Either way, I don't know why they're different, but they're gonna get degreased. I just don't want to risk this because once this is on and in place, I really don't want to deal with it again. And this is how I get sparks. So I'm just gonna Scotch-Brite the magnets in here just to make sure they're nice and conductive. This is actually gonna probably suck because, as I was saying, the screws for the stator plate are tapered. So yeah, you can see there's like a bevel here, and that's what I drilled through in order to get the old stator plate off. But in this case, I don't know if I'm gonna have screws for that. Even in the kit of hardware I got, I don't have a wiring harness for this bike, or I may. I have to look on the handle assembly. I was not counting on that. I was thinking it just had just the stator for the ignition. So yeah, if you're ever going to rebuild something unique, I wouldn't really call this unique, but something that's hard to find parts for, I would definitely try to find like a hardware kit, either new or used, for that unit. Because a lot of times people have, one, like in this case, this thing was blown up. So someone else may have seen that, being it's blown up and parted this thing out. And then they'll sell just, a miscellaneous bag of the hardware, which is what this is. I really doubt there's gonna be anything for the stator in here because those bolts are not easy to come out, but it's really, really nice to have, factory grade, exact fit, hardware ready to go. Because these are probably only M6 by 1.0 tapered bolts. I know I have M6 by 1.0, but I don't think I have tapered ones. So I could just throw the other ones in there, but it's gonna interfere with their magnets. So it's just one of those instances where it really helps to have factory stuff, but again, these screws are just too unique. I almost guarantee this kit's not gonna have it in it. Holy crap. Whoever took apart the bike that I got parts for knew what they were doing, because here are the bolts for the stator plate. That's pretty awesome. But you can see that this one's a little, actually both of them are a little messed up, which is fine. It's just gonna suck if I ever have to take this plate off again. So in the meantime, I'm just gonna put them on loosely, just in the off chance that I have to remove them again. I will probably forget to tighten these down once everything's ready to go. That just saved me a trip to the hardware store. So like I said, that bag of hardware that came in here, for the most part, I think I can use most of the hardware in here. Like included in here is like, that's a new exhaust flange. Well, not new, but it's an exhaust flange. I think this kit was like 30 bucks. And it's all used stuff, but it's for this bike. This will save me time and hassle for sure. And also, for example, I don't have this crank bolt, but I'm pretty sure there's one in here. Maybe. There we go. Look at that. That bag of hardware is gonna make this build happen. There were new kits of hardware where it's like, oh, everything you need for PW80, 50 bucks or whatever, but there's no guarantee that it's gonna be perfect. I would assume, all the threads would be right and the lengths of the bolts would be right. I figure the heads of the bolts would be different. So like for example, these head bolts that come with the new kit. So these are just like standard hex bolts, or hex nuts rather. And the ones that come with the bike initially are these capped built-in washer style, which I'm going to reuse the original ones because I prefer that style. But again, it's just one of those things that like, yeah, the thread's the same and it's probably the same, 10 millimeter that holds it in place, but it's not perfect. So I really just don't like using them just for that sake. So yeah, I don't have the wiring harness for this bike, and that's going to be a pain to find. I really don't think I need it. Oh, well, actually I will, because there's no way to kill the ignition in order to turn it off besides like smothering it with, so that complicates stuff. In the meantime, I guess I'm going to do the carb since I can't get this pin out. I assume the kit comes with new pins. I may soak this in oil. I'm going to do that actually. There's just basically a junkyard for small engine stuff like this. Next time I go up there, I'm going to try to get all the parts, like including wheels, because they're hard to find for a decent price. So next time I go up there, I'm going to try to I'm probably going to have to get the harness and wheels and stuff from them, because otherwise, like, I really don't want to buy new stuff. I know for a fact the new rims, like a set of rims, is like $200, and that's 10 times what I paid for the bike. I've had this carb soaking in PB Blaster since the last video, and hopefully because of that I can get the remaining pieces out of it, which specifically was the float pin. The bottom one here, which I guess is just a drain, is really, really stuck. You can see the head of this, where the actual screwdriver sits, it's all sorts of messed up. In reality, I really don't have to replace this thing, but it's just really messed up and I'd like to. Don't know how functional it really is. Also, another tech tip, if you have something that's really stuck, try tightening it first. Even if it's only, a hair tighter, but that can sometimes be all it takes to get a really tight bolt for you, rather. This one's just not cooperating. I may have to just forget it. This thing's just not coming out. I tanked the carb just overnight just to see what would happen. For the most part, it cleaned up pretty well. Yeah, good enough. As it turns out, the choke cable wasn't actually held in with anything besides grind. So once I wiggled it a little bit and put the WD-40 in there, it came right out. So what I'm going to do now is just spray it out once more with Carb Clean just to make sure there's no more residual, degreaser, and then put it back together. Just snug. Okay. That was easy. So way to set the float just to see if it's sitting right is once the needle and everything is in place, you should have a little bit of drop to that. That's how it shuts off. So if you got that, then you're good, and you should have a rebound to it too. It shouldn't drop and sit down. So that's those. Let's check these two. I have no idea what these two even do. I think this one is a throttle stop. It's like an idle screw. And then I think this one probably a mixture. I honestly have no idea, but they both have springs behind them, which tells me they're part of the adjustments. Yeah, let me spray these out. I'm only going to put these in about halfway, just because I don't know where they were when I took them out, and also if they were even in adjustment when I took them out. So I'm just going to set them about halfway and then make adjustments as needed if there's any sort of issues once I get it running. Okay, sleeve can go in there. Easy. Okay. It's kind of preference, but whenever you see a screw head, especially these small carb ones, tend to be made of like really weak metal and they deform pretty easily. So if they're damaged, it's difficult to put them in. I won't. I'll just find other replacements, because let's say you round one out, putting it in, now the thing's stuck in there. So when you need to rebuild the carb, which it's like almost guaranteed at some point you'll have to, that screw's never coming out of there, or at least not without a fight. I'm gonna spray that out because that goes back in there. But I have to drop the throttle cable in first. And then both of those go in there. Looks like I lost, oh, there it is. I was about to say, I thought I lost one of the screws. That would have been fun. Just slide that on there. Okay. So other than that, there's really not a lot I can do right now. I mean, I can spray out this crankcase some more and rebuild the top end, but I don't have a wiring harness for it. As it turns out, I've looked through all my stuff, and I've also looked online to see if I can find anything, and I can't. I mean, it really probably wouldn't be that hard to make a wiring harness, but I don't have a wiring diagram. There's not a lot of options aside from going to the ATV junkyard and trying to find one, or just looking online in hopes that one pops up. You know, I have other projects to be working on, so I'm going to work on those in the meantime. So there's still going to be stuff to look at and watch. But other than that, this project itself is going to be stalled out for a little while. So yeah, other than that, thanks for watching and stay tuned.